Okay, this is the evidence about what happened to Mars. It was hit by Venus. This is wider than the United States. It's the Mars Marianas Trench, something like that. It's just absolutely enormous. And when it did, it wiped the surface of Mars clean of its atmosphere, destroyed everything, and I'm sure it boiled the waters and so forth, which is the same thing that happened on Earth. And then all of this red planet is from the red dust of blood coming out of the sarcomeres and the tissues of the giant creatures just like we're here on Earth. Now stay tuned to the end of this video if you haven't seen before the muscle sarcomeres and so forth that are up on Bennu, which is another biology in space, and they came back with that sample, and here it is, and it's the same as these sarcomeres. I'll show you in extreme detail in a minute, and the same sarcomeres are here. You see these right here? This is muscle sarcomeres. Those right there. These are the layers in between, and these are the sarcomeres. And when they erode, they look exactly like this. And all the red dust is coming out because it's dry up there on Mars. There is not one single rivulet here, no erosion from water. That does not happen on Earth. This is Mars, 100% certain. And these are gigantic muscle sarcomeres. Gigantic. They say this is continually over millions of years this happened. No, this was one creature, and these are the sarcomeres. And anybody that knows biology has to understand that. This is what they are. These are what muscle sarcomeres are. They pull in, and when they contract, and when they get relaxed, they go open like that. And all this red stuff has run out, and all we have is the white stuff left because it's dry and it's just dusted off. These are the Mars blueberries. Anybody that's familiar with Utah and Arizona, they know these are what they call the Moki marbles. And the underneath part is the basement skin. Those are Moki marbles. Now, this is the Mars crab. Oh, that's nothing, that's nothing. I said, well, what is it? These are little blood vessels. That's an artery, and that's a vein. And these, once again, are the sarcomeres. And that blood is servicing these sarcomeres because at one time it was a muscle in a gigantic creature. We have exactly the same thing here on Earth. Identical. These things in space are not just rocks and dirt and came from some big bang of who knows what. No, this is life. The universe is universally alive. And that's the Mars Morse code, which is nothing more than interstitium, which is this stuff right here. I'll show you in a minute. But remember, I showed you Mars is just slammed by Venus. Venus, this is where Venus hit it, and Venus spins backwards. So it discharged electrically. You show that to a welding guy, and they say, oh yeah, it's a welding arc. And it either hit here or hit here, I'm not sure which. Probably hit, I don't know. It spins backwards. It's the only planet that spins backwards. And this was all described in the ancient texts too. We got to go back to the ancient texts. Now, originally, long, long ago, they said they had found fossils on Mars. And then they just backed away from it. They said, oh, don't say that kind of stuff. People get scared. Well, I go for truth. I'm a truth seeker. I want truth. And I showed all this stuff. Now they're going to be showing how they have found ingredients for life. No, there's life saturated throughout everything because there is nothing but life. And it's time for them to wake up and smell the roses. All right, so this is interstitium. You see this? This is what's right under your skin. If you died and were here and all your very soft stuff of your skin eroded away, you'd see all these little straps and balls. And guess what? You do see that on Mars, and here it is, if I can find it. Right there. They call that the Mars Morse code. This is pinched skin. This is pinched skin. This is stretched skin. You see the straps running across? You see the balls? Those are the Moki marbles. Eventually, they will end up just being the little marbles laying around when all they get dusted off. You see how finely dusted this is? This is not on Earth. This is on Mars, and there is no rain. All right, so this is just dusted off. This is not stretched or crushed. This is just how it should be. Precisely like I showed you a second ago in a creature's body. Only it's just laying flat. And the straps are weak compared to the balls. The balls they're tough. They last forever. And they call them the Moki marbles on Earth. They call them the Mars blueberries on Mars. Listen to this. We need Trump to get quick on this. The cost to retrieve the samples that they contained up there, they're still up on Mars, will run between $5 and $7 billion and take 10 or 15 years or something. A long time. Fetching the samples. Why do we have to fetch them? We know everything about it right now just by looking at it. If you can't see that that was biology, then you got an issue with you, not with me. Well, you're just pareidolia. No, it's PhDolia. Once they think they're too smart, they can't see anything that's just obvious anymore. It's absolutely stunning. Okay, my friends, shocker du jour, but it's quite obvious that Mars, in 2023, the future of the Mars samples that they had collected up there, but they're just laying up there, the return mission became shaky after an independent review determined that the program had unrealistic budget, schedule expectations, unwieldy structure, and was not arranged to be led effectively. Boy, that is an extreme understatement. Listen to this. The House and Senate Appropriations Committee subsequently recommended a budget that included a cut of $454 million. That's a drop in a bucket. NASA 2024 budget specifically from the Mars sample return mission. So they're worrying about this thing being cut. So it says NASA also reduced spending on a mission, laid off a large number of workers and contractors from JPL, which is leading the mission. Well, that's a good thing. You know, unfortunately for these people, they've been just swept up in this nonsense. This led to some alarm. The mission may... Okay, I'm sorry, that was a little interruption there. That's one of the people I'm working with, the DNA test. Now, it led to some alarm. The mission may be axed because they were getting rid of, cutting their budget. They're just not getting anywhere. And they haven't paid attention to what they should have paid attention to, which is the mud fossils. I contacted NASA 10 years ago about this. And for some reason, they went to Yale and funded them to do a study on mud fossils. And they said, yes, the soft tissues could fossilize, but Yale had it all wrong, saying that it was only soft, gooey things that fossilized. No, it was body parts, goose heads, fingertips, everything. Meat, literally meat. And they cannot accept these. Yale was the worst about even thinking about it. The first words out of their mouth at Yale from Derek Briggs was, what are you, a creationist? And this goes back to the time when Mary Schweitzer was basically destroyed for her work on soft tissues and preservation, how long they can last. This is not, she dissolved her stuff in acids and ended up with collagen fibers, and they said, that's impossible, no. And they really just basically destroyed her. And I have all the evidence. My stuff has been DNA tested, CAT scan. There's no question I'm correct. And the stuff that's coming out of space is biology. Mars is saturated with biology. These are the DNA tests done on my samples. It goes back to 2015. And the conclusion was that they were all positive for human DNA, and it was excellent quality DNA sequences obtained from the 36-inch sample and the lung sample. And here they are right here. Homo sapien mitochondrial B gene, cytochrome B gene, and mitochondrial D-loop region. Both of them. Homo sapien. I said, is that modern human? He says, yeah, it's a modern human. And this was a test. And this guy was fabulous to work with. And he answered every question, and he took a beating for it. Because there was, oh no, he must have contaminated and all that stuff. No, I didn't contaminate it. And if I did, they are here to be retested. They will not test them. They won't even look at them because they know they're done. Anatomically, they're exactly correct. DNA, excellent quality. This is what we're up against, is people that deny reality. All right, pay attention. Don't write this off as insanity. You see what this is? That's a heart. These are the heart valves. And right there across the heart, there is two sets of, or there's an artery and a vein. And they oppose each other and they snap right apart. When they do the autopsies, they just almost fall apart because it's called iron banding. There's the red and the black iron, and they're opposite polarities. They snap right apart, and you end up with this. Well, guess what? That is exactly identical to a heart. Bennu. It is a heart. And they came back with the sarcomeres, which are the actual muscles. I was shocked when I saw it. I knew it was a heart, but I didn't know they come back with the muscle. And this is where it breaks right off here, because there's a layer between here that they oppose each other. So this is a heart, Bennu. Now, let's see what they came back with. Here's what they did. They went up there, and they went right down in here, point of impact. And they thought they were just going to snip it off the top, but they sunk deep in, because this is nothing but blood cells. And yes, it's blood cells. These are the colors of blood. No question about that. Red, black, and yellow. Those are the oxidation states of iron. This is a heart, and this, they came back with muscle sarcomeres. I'll show you. All right, this is a heart attack. This is heart muscle, and this is where it's ripped and torn from a heart attack victim. These are what's called muscle sarcomeres. They have a layer above and below and a block in the center. What they do is they contract this way and relax this way. Clunk, 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 clunk. And your heart goes, and this one here can't pull. Heart attack. Now, these are muscle sarcomeres, which comes from a heart. What if they came back from Bennu with some of this? What would you think then? Because they did come back from Bennu with this. These are muscle sarcomeres. This is small, 1 millimeter is this wide. So they're tiny little muscle sarcomeres, but this is a huge heart. It's in space. I'm sorry. It's just a fact. Get over it. This gives so much to start examining. It's just incredible. They saw this white stuff here in a certain type of light, which made it show up as white. And he said, "Oh, what's this?" Well, it's a phosphate. Phosphate is from phospholipid membranes. These are membranes. So what they did was they looked deeper and deeper and deeper into it, and here's what they found. You have a phospholipid membrane here. You have the muscle sarcomeres here. And then above the sarcomeres, you have another layer of membranes, and then you have another layer of sarcomeres. Now, this comes a little closer right down to the actual blocks of sarcomeres. Those aren't just broken up little bits and pieces of rock. Those are sarcomeres between two phospholipid layers. And even when they brought it back, this is a phosphate surprise. We had no idea what to expect. I expect some discussion about this. Okay, so you're probably thinking this guy's insane. But I'm saying that's a heart. And that is anatomically a heart, and so is psyche, this is Bennu, this is psyche. Psyche is saturated with metals. Now those metals smelt in space if it gets too close to a hot source, which it did. Now this is a heart, and so is Bennu. Now, can I show you other things in space that are body parts? Yes, I can. And this thing is absolutely gigantic. And all the ancient cultures talked about battles in the heaven, and they saw these things happening, and it's been written out of history because it's insane. I didn't say it's not insane. It is insane, but it is a fact. And I'll show you Comet 67P. I followed that thing as close as anybody. I have the chemistry about it. I have all the... I'll show you right now. All right, now this is Comet 67P. I'm going to be showing you in a second. I think it was 2015, 2014, 2015, right in that area. They landed a craft on this comet, and they did sampling of the, right here I have the samples, and they were right there on it, taking all these pictures. Now, what did they find? Well, first of all, this is right up close and personal. I'm going to tell you what this is right now. Is a hip joint. You say, oh, come on, Roger, that's crazy. Well, let's find out. Take your time and look at that bundle. Does that look just like nothing to you? What formed that? And what are these little pinchy things? And I do know what they are because they're tendons and entheses, and tendons and muscle fibers. And this is the socket, the ball. These are the tendon fibers. Now let me show you what a hip looks like and why I say this is a hip. Because here it is right here. It's from a different angle. There's the hip bone. And there's the ball in the socket. What it's got left covering it, I don't know. Because it's supposed to be smooth if it was just the ball. So it's still coated with something, I believe. But they break off. They just break off. This one broke at the hip socket. And that's not uncommon. This is what they do. They break right off. Sometimes here, sometimes there, sometimes here. And ours is basically over in this area, I believe. You see? And that, now, what about the chemistry? And what would it do if it was actually a hip socket? You need blood. You need some muscle. You need some tendon to make that thing work. Now, I don't know what kind of a creature it was in, but they all work pretty much the same. Now, where would the blood come out of? Well, let's look at this. What the hell's going on there? Comets don't dust off. They gas off. And you say, gas? Where's the gas coming from? That's an artery. That's an artery. And it's got, the sun is hitting it exactly correctly to cook. It's actually sending infrared radiation or whatever the radiation is into that to cook the blood that's down in there. And it's shooting out gases of blood, hydrocarbons primarily. Well, they're polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Hold on. This is nothing more than barbecue gas. And this is proliferating all out in space. And all of the astronauts say when they go on the spacewalks, when they come back in, take their suits off, it smells like steak or burned metals. Hearts and cooked gases from bodies, the blood is what cooks primarily, and that gives off metals. And they say it smells like welding rods and metals burning and steak. That's what that's the astronauts say, and it should, obviously. You know how big that artery is? It's gigantic. These are the little blood vessels that are feeding all of the tissues up above. That's why they're shooting out wherever that little blood vessel was pointing. Okay, so we know Bennu is a heart. We know that 67P is a hip joint, and that is barbecue smoke coming out of there. And this is the gases that they found. You see this iron, these are all the different iron in the blood. I contact them. They go, hydrocarbons, this is all blood. These are blood gases and blood chemistry. body, organic. They knew this. There was no question about it. They had the Philae lander went down there. This is what broke off, and you can see some tendons, and you can see some muscles there, and you can see the break in the bone. This is not a mystery here. It's gigantic. I'm not saying it's not. This is 40 meters. This is 500 feet across. They call these are blood vessels. They call them dragon balls. And when the sun hit it exactly right down inside, it just squirted out gases like on steroids. And when it hit these other ones, they shoot out too, because they're the little blood vessels. That's the big boy that comes down to feed. Everybody has arteries and they have blood vessels. That's basic anatomy. And this thing is so gigantic that's Raleigh, North Carolina, on a very bad day. 67P. I followed this inside and out. The European Space Agency did it. I have a friend that used to, he's retired now, but he supported all these different agencies. And he sends me a lot of good stuff, Pedro, my good friend. So I expect NASA to address these things. They're saying ingredients for life? No, it is life that exploded from gigantic creatures. The Earth is made out of gigantic creatures. They can look down from space and see it. They are avoiding reality and truth. Now, if we want to be able to trust these people, they have to respond to what I just presented. And I expect Trump and Vance and Musk and a whole crew of them to say, what's going on? Why aren't you guys looking at this? Roger's got evidence. Let's talk. That's all I want to do is talk. And I have so much evidence about this stuff. And the health and the interstitium. This layer in the human body, this is your immune system. I covered all this stuff. And so Trump is 100% right to shake things up big time. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you. I love you all.